The story will be told from the perspective of the main female character.
The crystal wine glasses clicked softly against the bone china. Our family was seated for the customary Sunday dinner at the mansion. I smoothed the material of my simple black dress. I felt out of place next to my sister, Juliet, who wore her expensive designer clothes, and my mother, Diane, wearing her trademark pearls. My laptop bag held my 5 years of quantum research and felt heavy next to me. Elena, my father began, slowly swirling the Bordeaux in his glass. We must talk about the money for your project. I paused, holding my fork midway to my plate. The quantum stability algorithm was the core of my career since I graduated from Caltech. What about it? He explained the board felt it was time to cut losses. He pushed a document across the dark mahogany table. We are selling the research division. My sister Juliet slightly smirked into her wine glass. Finally, that basement laboratory was becoming an embarrassment to the sterling name. My heart began to race. I immediately protested that we were close to a massive breakthrough. The quantum stability tests are showing great results. Great results do not generate profit, my father cut in sharply. Sterling Dynamics needs certainty, not just theoretical ideas. He informed me he had already arranged the sale to Omni Systems. My mother dabbed her mouth with a napkin. Darling, it's time to focus on something useful. I quietly mentioned that Juliet's division was only successful because they copied the innovations of other companies. I make money, Juliet shot back immediately, while you hide in the dark with your equations. My father slid the papers closer, signed the transfer documents. He said Omni Systems was offering $1.8 million for the whole project. $1.8 million. I nearly laughed. Dad, the potential value of the applications alone is worthless without confirmed proof, he interrupted me. Sign it. My phone buzzed in my bag, then buzzed again and again. Very popular tonight, Juliet sneered. My fingers shook as I took out my phone. 3 messages from the patent office, all marked urgent, were visible on the screen. I opened the first. Patent number 457892 for the quantum stability algorithm was officially approved. The second granted a breakthrough designation. The third message stopped my heart entirely. Initial bidding offers began at $3.5 billion. Please advise. I looked up. My father was already using his Montblanc pen to sign the transfer papers. Hold that thought about your signature. He finished the writing with a dramatic sweep of the pen. It is finished, he announced. Time to face the real world, Elena. That timing is quite interesting, I said calmly. I turned my phone toward them. The patent office seems to disagree about these theories being worthless. The Montblanc pen clattered out of Dad's grasp. It left a dark ink blotch on the immaculate white tablecloth. My sister's wine glass stopped frozen near her mouth. My mother's fork struck her plate, making a loud, sharp clang. 3.5, Juliet gasped, choking slightly. Billion, I finished for her. Not million, billion. I rose and started collecting my laptop bag. Dad instantly lunged for the documents he had just signed. I moved faster than he did. These, I stated, holding the transfer papers up, are completely useless. The patents belong to me, not Sterling Dynamics. I had filed the registration privately just last week. You can't do that, Dad sputtered loudly. The company paid for that. My personal trust fund covered the costs, I corrected him. The money Grandma left me. I never used 1 cent of company funds. I smiled when I recalled Grandma's last advice. Dear, never let them contain your brilliance. My phone buzzed once more. Excuse me, I said, reading the new notification. That's Google. They are increasing the offer to $4.2 billion. Shall we now talk about who needs to join the real world? I asked. A deep silence fell over the dining room. Only the faint, soft clinking of Juliet's shaking wine glass against her teeth broke the quiet. I took out my tablet. I displayed the quantum stability simulation that had occupied my life for 5 years. The holographic image lit up the dining room. It showed quantum particles moving in perfect, precise synchronization. Dad's face went pale. He recognized the profound implications. This is quantum computing without decoherence, I explained, rotating the display slowly. It provides perfect stability at normal room temperature. Every major technology firm has been attempting to solve this exact problem for decades. But your internal reports showed inconsistent results, Juliet stammered, confused. I gave a soft laugh. Those reports were carefully designed decoys. I admitted I learned that strategy by watching her. I saw how you steal breakthroughs from other company divisions. Did you truly believe I would leave my actual research exposed? Mom's hands were trembling as she reached for the crystal wine decanter. Elena, surely we can discuss this right now as a family. Discuss it like you discussed selling my life's work. I swiped my tablet to show more patent documents. Oh, and it's not just one patent. I explained that I had filed 12 patents in total. The quantum stability algorithm is merely the starting foundation. Dad's complexion had turned an alarming shade of grey. 12. Quantum computing, quantum encryption, quantum storage. I listed them off, making him flinch at each word. Conservative projections estimate the entire patent portfolio is worth $16 billion. That valuation is probably low when you include military applications. Another message appeared on my phone. Speaking of military applications, I smiled. That is the Department of Defense requesting an emergency meeting. Juliet knocked over her wine glass. Red liquid immediately began spreading across the white tablecloth. You completely tricked us. No, dear sister, I corrected her. I protected myself. I protected myself from the very family that should have been protecting me. I stood up straight and smoothed my dress. Dad lunged toward the transfer documents again. As CEO of Sterling Dynamics. You might want to pause that thought, I interrupted him. I pulled out one last document. Do you remember making me sign those board appointment papers last month, the ones you clearly didn't read carefully? His hands froze over the documents. Go to page 47, paragraph 3, I suggested. It describes the automatic transfer of voting shares in the event of attempted intellectual property appropriation. Mom gasped loudly as Dad frantically flipped through the pages. I glanced at my watch. 12 minutes ago, when you attempted to force the sale of my research, I officially became the majority shareholder of Sterling Dynamics. The sound of multiple phones vibrating simultaneously filled the stunned silence. The news was breaking right then. I placed my napkin neatly on the table. I believe my first official action as the controlling shareholder should be calling a full emergency board meeting. I gathered my remaining items. I paused at the dining room entrance. Dad, you need to prepare your retirement speech. Juliet, clear out your office immediately. Your history of corporate espionage will be the first item on our agenda. The setting sun cast long, dramatic shadows through the windows, emphasizing the wreckage on the dinner table. Spilled wine, scattered documents, and shattered expectations. My phone buzzed with yet another bid, but I was no longer interested in selling anything. My quantum revolution had much bigger plans, and this was only the beginning. The Sterling Dynamics boardroom felt tense the next morning. 14 members of the board sat stiffly in their leather chairs. They kept glancing nervously between me and my father, who still sat gripping his seat at the head of the table. This emergency meeting is now in session, the corporate secretary announced. His voice was slightly shaky. The screens behind him showed the company's stock. It had already climbed 47% following news of the quantum patent discovery. Before we start, Dad began, attempting to sound authoritative, I must address these outlandish accusations. Let's begin with the facts instead, I interrupted him, pulling out my tablet. Mr. Roberts, please hand out the documents. My lawyer stepped forward and distributed thick folders. As the board can clearly see, Ms. Elena Sterling's quantum patents are owned independently. Moreover, her acquisition of the controlling shares is legally sound under Article 7 of the company charter. Impossible, my sister burst out from her seat near Dad. She's never even been to a board meeting before. I smiled. I pulled up security footage on the screen. Actually, I have attended every meeting for the past year. I pointed to the clips. You simply did not realize I was here. The screens displayed various scenes from past board meetings. In the background of each clip were maintenance staff or junior assistants. They wore different uniforms and different faces in every shot. That's me gathering information, I explained, touching my now natural face. It's facial modification technology, another patent I hold. I noted how people fail to see you when they believe you are just serving coffee. Dad's knuckles turned white as he gripped the armrests tighter. The board will never accept this manipulation. The board, I cut in, might find this more interesting. I clicked to the next screen. It showed detailed documentation of Juliet's corporate espionage. 5 years of stolen ideas, brilliant researchers buried and careers destroyed. All of it was to maintain the false success of her so-called innovation division. Juliet's face lost all colour as her crimes appeared on the screens. Ms. Sterling, Mr. Chin from the audit committee spoke up. What is your exact proposal here? I stood and walked over to the window that overlooked Manhattan. Sterling Dynamics was built on true innovation by my grandfather, not on theft or intimidation. It was built on real breakthroughs. I turned back to the board members. I propose we return to those core principles. My phone vibrated again. The bidding for the patents had just reached $5.9 billion. I chose to ignore the call. I am restructuring the company immediately. The researchers you forced out, I said. I pressed a button and the door opened. A group of familiar faces came in, scientists and engineers Juliet had previously fired over the years. They are your new department heads. This is ridiculous, Dad sputtered loudly. You cannot simply. I can, I stated firmly. And I have one final surprise. I nodded to my lawyer who handed out a new stack of documents. The quantum technology is only the beginning. Please meet Project Phoenix. The screens then filled with complex simulations and detailed designs that caused gasps among the board members. Even Juliet leaned forward, momentarily forgetting her anger. What is this? Someone whispered in disbelief. The future, I answered simply, and we have already constructed it. The board screens showed a huge underground facility located right beneath my small basement lab. It was a quantum computing center larger than 3 football fields. While you assumed I was just playing with equations, I explained, zooming in on different parts of the structure, I built the world's most advanced quantum research facility. It was funded entirely by my trust fund and investors who actually understand innovation. Impossible, Juliet breathed out. The construction alone should have been noticed. By your corporate spies, I smiled slightly. They were too busy trying to steal outdated technology to notice the real work happening literally under their feet. I displayed the facility's recent test results. 3 weeks ago, we achieved quantum supremacy. Last week, we solved protein folding problems that would require traditional supercomputers centuries to complete. Yesterday, we successfully cracked atmospheric carbon capture. The phones of the board members started buzzing at once as the financial markets reacted to each new revelation. Sterling Dynamics stock was skyrocketing. But there's more, I continued, clicking to the next slide. Dr. Rivera, would you please explain your department's breakthrough? A woman whom Juliet had dismissed 2 years earlier stepped forward. Using Ms. Sterling's quantum stability algorithm, we have successfully developed a room-temperature quantum computer the size of a standard laptop. The working prototype is ready for a demonstration. Dad finally managed to find his voice. You can't, these people were fired. Illegally fired, I corrected him. After they refused to allow Juliet to steal their research. I looked toward security. Speaking of which, please escort my sister to her office to collect her belongings. The FBI's corporate fraud division wants to ask her some questions. As Juliet was escorted out, screaming about family loyalty, I turned back to face the board. Now let's discuss the true future of Sterling Dynamics. I looked directly at Dad. You might want to take notes. This will be your very last board meeting. Mr. Chin raised his hand. The shareholders are ecstatic, he said. I displayed the stock ticker for the board to see. We are currently up 89% and still climbing. This is because, for the first time in years, Sterling Dynamics is genuinely innovating. I moved to the head of the long table, taking the place where my father had been dominating the company for 20 years. Project Phoenix is not just focused on quantum computing. It is about converting this corporation back into what my grandfather established, a real technology leader. Dad stood up, visibly shaking. You planned everything, the patents, the shares, the facility, all of it. 5 years, I confirmed with a nod. Since that day you scoffed at my first quantum proposal and gave the project funding to Juliet's department instead. I learned then that the best way to safeguard innovation is sometimes to hide it from those who intend to steal it. My phone buzzed again. The bidding had now reached $7.5 billion. I hit the ignore button. But now, I smiled at the anxious board members, we will conduct business openly. I announced a complete overhaul of the executive team. Dr. Rivera, you are now our new head of innovation. Mr. Chin, I need you to lead the full audit of Juliet's former division. And Dad, I looked at his ashen face. The details for your retirement package are already in your folder. I strongly suggest you accept it before the SEC investigation starts. The morning sunlight streamed into the boardroom, illuminating the quantum future displayed on the monitors. I had transformed completely, from the invisible daughter to the most powerful person in the room. This was only my beginning. A month after the corporate takeover, a different atmosphere energized the Sterling Dynamics headquarters. The stuffy executive floor was now an innovation hub. Glass partitions replaced the solid doors, and researchers openly exchanged ideas. I was standing in my grandfather's newly restored office, now mine, watching the sun rise over the city skyline. The latest results from the quantum facility scrolled across my tablet. Cancer protein mappings were being solved in hours instead of years. Climate models could predict changes down to specific neighborhoods, and the new quantum encryption made existing security systems look laughably simple. Ms. Sterling, my assistant, entered. Your mother is here, and the federal investigators need you to look over Juliet's case files. I turned from the window and straightened my blazer. How does Mom look? Different, no pearls today. I nodded. Send her in. My mother, Diane, came in hesitantly. I barely recognized her. The superior attitude and designer clothing were gone. She wore a simple business suit and carried a file. The house is sold, she stated quietly. Your father's retirement papers are signed, and Juliet is cooperating with the investigation. Mom sank into a chair. The evidence was much worse than we realized. She didn't just steal ideas. She ruined careers and lives, I finished, pulling up files on the wall screen. That is why I tracked down every researcher she hurt. Many of them are now back, running their own divisions. You gave them back their lives, she whispered. I gave them what they deserved, I replied. Something this family forgot how to do. Mom opened her folder, her hands shaking slightly. I found these in your father's old study. She showed me my childhood sketches of quantum equations. You were trying to show us this for years. And you only saw what you wanted to see, I said, my tone gentle. The quiet daughter, the scientist in the basement, the family disappointment. We were the disappointment, she whispered back. Your grandfather would have been immensely proud. I walked over to the wall where I had hung my grandfather's first patents next to my own. He knew. He left me a letter with my trust fund. I quoted his words. Keep an eye on the quiet ones. They are usually the ones building revolutions. My phone buzzed. Another major breakthrough from the quantum lab. Cancer trials showed a 98% success rate. The board meeting begins in 10 minutes, I said, collecting my files. We are announcing the new medical division today. Would you like to attend? Mom looked surprised. I don't have a role here anymore. Actually, I countered, pulling out a document. I have a proposal. My grandfather's charitable foundation needs a complete overhaul. It should be funding young scientists, not country club memberships. Are you interested in leading that? Her eyes welled up. After everything we did to you. The past is finished, I said firmly. The important question is, what will you build starting now? The boardroom doors opened. Dr. Rivera entered with the medical team, their faces glowing with excitement. Another quantum innovation was ready to change the world. Time for the meeting, I told Mom. Are you coming with me? She stood up, squaring her shoulders. Yes, it's time I learned what genuine innovation looks like. As we walked toward the boardroom, my phone buzzed again. The stock had hit yet another record. Juliet had pleaded guilty and Dad's retirement was confirmed, but those were not the messages I cared about. The one that mattered came from the quantum lab, clinical trials approved, first patients ready. We are going to save lives. I smiled, remembering my grandfather's words. The quiet ones build revolutions, and my revolution had just begun.